Folks, it has been a crazy, hectic day. I'm talking about January 6th Supreme Court Justice hearing going on, and the fact that Trump is on day two of doing jury selection for his current trial going on with the hush money case, as they call it. But at any rate, I was reading, and they say that there's already 7 jurors been selected. That's the word out as of right now. But I believe they have went through over 50 and said they're not going to be qualified because they are too biased one way or another. I wonder what kind of questions they actually got to ask them. Hopefully, the jury selection gets done in such a way that there is at least a possible chance that we get some sleeper cells in there, or somebody in there that has common sense and doesn't want Trump in prison. All we need is a few. Matter of fact, all we really need is one. But truth be known, I'd rather talk to you about something else, because that is kind of out of our hands at this point. That is in God's hands, and these, I guess it's in the hands of these corrupt individuals as well. So we're going to have to see how all this goes. I think Trump will be victorious in the end. I think if they do put him in jail over these Mickey Mouse charges, I think it will only make him grow stronger as a person, make him grow stronger as a candidate, and will show more of the American people what a horrible, wicked system we're living under right now. So, at any rate, I'm going to go ahead and get into the audio after I do a little bit of reading for you. I've got an audio of Neil Gorsuch. He is one of our Chief Justices of the Supreme Court. This is breaking news. We'll be finding out a little bit more about it. Now, this case will not be immediately resolved, but at this point, we are getting to see how the different justices are arguing for or against in the questioning of Biden's Solicitor General during these questions. All right, let me scroll down here, folks. It says Justice Neil Gorsuch blows up Department of Injustice case against January 6 protesters while dunking on Biden's Solicitor General during questioning. Pretty good title there. It says the United States Supreme Court is holding arguments in Fisher versus U.S., a case that could reduce criminal charges filed against more than 350 Trump supporters. Some of these people, this is their only charge against them, so those people would be let out of jail if it goes that way. And these are the people that participated in the Capitol protest on January 6th. It says the Department of Injustice, otherwise known as the DOJ, is using a statute called Obstructed a Congressional Proceeding to prosecute hundreds of these protesters for simply exercising their First Amendment rights. This statute is a serious felony with potential of 20 years behind bars. Now, I do understand if you walked in that building and you were let in, that may be a trespassing charge technically. I believe that 90% of the people there didn't deserve to ever be locked up one time. I think a lot of people traveled into that building willy-nilly, not knowing that they were, even being ushered in, not knowing that they were committing a felony at this point, which I always thought it was the people's house. But since the doors were breached, that's the reason they went that direction with it. Well, the reason they went that direction with it was to try to give Trump and the MAGA party a black eye. We know what happened. We know what Nancy Pelosi did and didn't do. But at any rate, it says the Department of Justice has over 300 of these people that are locked up or have already settled. Over 100 and something of these people have already settled, or have already took their sentence. But at any rate, the Supreme Court finally took up one of the cases. Been waiting for this to happen for a while, and like I said, it'll be a few months before that actually gets settled. A few months from now, when they probably make a ruling on it. But it's great that we get to hear a little bit about it in the meantime. It says CNN notes that this case has implications for President Donald Trump, who is also being charged with the same charge. He's also being charged by Jack Smith, obstruction of justice official proceeding. See, they were holding the electoral count vote that day, and Arizona was coming up, and Ted Cruz was contesting. I know y'all remember what happened, folks. And then mysteriously, the doors were breached. It says Judge Neil Gorsuch stole the show this morning by blowing up the foundation of the DOJ's case against the nonviolent J6 protesters while the Trump supporters simply exercise their rights. All right, now Gorsuch threw out several meaningful real-life incidences involving these left-wing figures, including the unlawful sit-ins during a trial which occurred during Brett Kavanaugh's hearing in 2018. All right, we're going to go right here. It says Gorsuch was having none of this bullcrap, this nonsense, the spinning of the truth, and he pushed back. Let me go ahead and blow it up.
If I might, so what does that mean for the breadth of this statute? Would a sit-in that disrupts a trial or access to a federal courthouse qualify? Would a heckler in today's audience qualify, or at the State of the Union address? Would pulling a fire alarm before a vote qualify for 20 years in federal prison?
There are multiple elements of the statute that I think might not be satisfied by those hypotheticals, and it relates to the point I was going to make to the Chief Justice about the breadth of this statute. The kind of built-in limitations are the things that I think would potentially suggest that many of those things wouldn't be something the government could charge or prove as 1512c2 beyond a reasonable doubt, would include the fact that the actus reus does require obstruction, which we understand to be a meaningful interference. So that means that if you have some minor disruption or delay or some minimal outburst, we don't think it falls within the actus reus to begin with.
My outbursts require the court to reconvene after the proceeding has been brought back into line, or the pulling of the fire alarm, the vote has to be rescheduled, or the protest outside of a courthouse makes it inaccessible for a period of time. Are those all federal felonies subject to 20 years in prison?
So with some of them, it would be necessary to show nexus. So with respect to the protest outside the courthouse, we'd have to show that, yes, they were aiming at the proceeding.
Yeah, they were trying to stop the proceeding.
Yes, and then we'd also have to be able to prove that they acted corruptly, and this sets a stringent mens rea. It's not even just the mere intent to obstruct. We have to show that also, but we have to show that they had corrupt intent in acting in that way.
We went around that tree yesterday.
I know. I heard the argument yesterday, but I guess what I would say is that to the extent that your hypotheticals are pressing on the idea of a peaceful protest, even one that's quite disruptive, it's not clear to me that the government would be able to show that each of those protesters had corrupt intent.
So mostly peaceful protest that actually obstructs and impedes an official proceeding for an indefinite period would not be covered?
Not necessarily. We would just have to have the evidence.
This woman is spinning and backpedaling and can't answer the question straight because he's giving her the same type hypotheticals, but in a different situation.
Evidence of intent, and that's a high bar.
They intend to do it, all right.
So then he pinpointed out the most asinine part of the statement. So as a mostly peaceful protest that disrupts an official proceeding for an indefinite period, that wouldn't be covered. That's classic, folks, right there. We already know that we have had other official proceedings disrupted in more obstructive ways. I'm talking about violence and people bloody hands and over this abortion issue and stuff in the courtroom. There's been many courthouses across this country that have been obstructed from doing from the House and Senate from doing their daily job because of these left-wing nut protesters. And so if this applies to them, then it should apply to everybody. But in reality, I don't think it applies at all. I think these 300-something cases need to be thrown out, including the one against Trump. There was no obstruction of an official proceeding per se as a felony criminal charge. It's just ridiculous, folks. Just my opinion. But so Joseph Fisher, a former Pennsylvania cop who participated in the J6 protest, is the person who brought the case all the way to the Supreme Court. His lawyers pointed out Fisher has spent less than 4 minutes inside the building and advanced fewer than 25 feet. The DOJ prosecutors argue differently, though. They claim Fisher warned his police chief that things might get violent. Wow. Says the grand jury returned with a 7-count indictment against Fisher on March 2021, just 2 months after the attack. The indictment included charges of civil disorder, assaulting, resisting, impeding officers, as well as obstruction charges. He faces up to 20 years in prison for walking 25 feet into the building. This case was before the Supreme Court, involves at least only that last charge, which is the obstruction of an official proceeding charge. It says Gateway Pundit has extensively reported on the suffering of the J6 protesters under the Biden regime, and absolutely they have. In addition to the outrageous sentencing, some were assaulted by Capitol Police officers as well, and denied medical care. Several people, Miss Boland, and a lot of people in prison. I'm talking about the J6ers have been mistreated, not given counsel, and even been beaten and put in solitary. It's a damn shame, folks. There's no doubt about it. But I believe justice is coming for this whole situation. Well, folks, hopefully we will get some justice out of this whole situation. I'm talking about J6 prisoners let out of jail. And I will let you know this is just the beginning for the whole situation. I'm talking about with Trump as well. Been a very eventful day, but we're just now getting into the woodworks of how eventful it's going to be from this point forward. I'm telling you, folks, we're just getting started with the craziness. And I wouldn't fret too much, folks, if they do put Trump in jail. It is a real possibility at this point. The left is so stupid at this point that they think it will hurt his chances of being reelected. And so if they believe that, then they're going to do their best to put him in jail. Just the way it is, folks. But not going to work. Not going to change a thing. We're going to win 2024, folks. Like, subscribe, and share. Vote Patriots. Everybody have a great day. Over and out.